Hey there, it's your librarian friend. In this video, I'm going to show you how to gut a book. Just kidding, you don't need a knife. This is a method for mastering the argument of a book very quickly without having to read it from cover to cover. So if you want to learn how to read a book in an hour, just keep watching. This method comes from Andrew Abbott's digital paper. If you're following along at home, it's on pages 137 to 139. I mentioned this book in my video on my 4 favorite books for teaching and learning, reading, and research. I'll leave a link down below if you missed that one. And there's lots of different methods for similar processes to get the gist of a book very quickly. But this one I find to be straightforward, helpful, easy to follow, and really effective. One of the caveats for this method is you really want to use it on a book that is well written and well organized. It might not work for every book. Not every book is going to have every element that you need to take a look at, but this is kind of a general overview that will work a lot of the time. The first time I tried this, I did it with a book that was a scholar's dissertation, so it was very organized and was easy to do these steps with. Okay, so step 1 is read the table of contents. Read it a couple times. Read it 4 or 5 times. If the chapter names are descriptive, it'll show you the flow of the argument throughout the book, and it'll kind of give you an idea of what you can expect. Step 2 is scan the index for the most used abstractions. So the entries that have lots of pages listed in the index are probably the most important concepts in the book. You might also start to figure out how these words and abstract concepts are connected to each other, and that'll give you an idea for what's going on in the argument. Step 3, check for a conclusion or summary at the end of the book. It'll be really easy to just read that and get a nice sense of everything that has come before without having to actually read every word of every chapter. There's probably also conclusion sections or paragraphs at the end of each chapter you might want to check out. And Abbott doesn't talk about this, but I recommend also checking out the introduction. The introduction usually will have a breakdown of a chapter by chapter process that the author went through to make their argument. Conclusion and summary paragraphs are really great because usually that's where the author is the most clear and concise about what they're trying to say. Step 4 is try to recite the book's main argument as if you're explaining it to someone else. Write it down, come up with what you think the book's thesis statement is. Step 5 is to take 15 minutes or so to scan the rest of the book, see if you can find any words or phrases that seem important, maybe related to the index or the introduction or the summaries that you've read, and see if there's anything else to absorb from the rest of the book. And lastly, step 6 is write down your notes. Abbott says to write a summary of the argument referring to the index, the table of contents, and the chapter summaries you've read as necessary. I'm a huge fan of taking summary notes like this whenever you're reading, kind of like creating an annotated bibliography. Just having notes for any book that you've read is really helpful for yourself when you're going back through your notes, when you're going back through your research to remind yourself of what's important in what you've read. In this case, it's even more helpful because you didn't actually read the book. So you might have notes that will spark something later and remind you to go back to it and actually dig deeper if you need to. So that's it. Read the table of contents, check out the index, read the chapter summaries, the summary conclusion of the book and the index, write down what you think the argument is or the main idea, scan the book for anything else you might need, and then take your notes. And you've just read a book in an hour. I'm gonna put a link down in the description box to a research guide that I've created that has a downloadable copy of this process. It also includes Abbott's method for reading a journal article in 20 minutes. Let me know in the comments if you'd like a video on that as well. Also, please comment and share if you have any other tips and tricks for getting the gist of a book quickly without having to read the whole thing. Also, I just want to say, obviously it's good to read a whole book, especially if you're going to be doing sustained and critical analysis of the work. but sometimes you just need to get the idea quickly and move on. So I'm not saying don't read a whole book, but this is just a helpful trick if you need to get through some texts quickly. So that's it for me. If you learned something new, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time with more tips and tricks from your librarian friend.